So welcome to the Joel Blake Business Show. I'm your host, Joel Blake, and it's such an honor to be with you today. In a slight deviation from our normal show, I'm so proud to be introducing a segment that we call Titan Talks With. And today, it's such an honor and a pleasure to be talking to one of our region's most reputable, well-respected leaders, Mr. Dr. Jason Wouhra OBE. Nice to see you. How are you? Thank you for joining us. How are you?
Very well.
Fantastic. Jason, look, everyone knows you. Those who don't know you need to know you. Your reputation is well preceded. But what we really want to do in this show is really get behind the businessman. We want to get an understanding of you, your philosophy, your ideals, your lessons and learnings. And so I'd really like to start by just getting an understanding of, where did this whole journey start? What was the beginning of your business journey?
Well, the journey started probably before I was born, to be honest. My family, my father and his four brothers established a company called East End Foods in the late 60s in Wolverhampton. And really the background to that was, wanting to create a good future for the family and really do as well as they could, having come from Delhi recently. So they established this small spice company selling products door to door in Wolverhampton. And the business really grew from there to what it was when we sold up in 2019. We were lucky enough to be regarded as one of the most respected Asian food brands in Europe. We had all of our production and all of our manufacturing here in West Bromwich, which we were very proud about as a family, because there wasn't anyone in the industry doing that. But by that time, my father and his brothers wanted to retire. So following the sale, we sold to private equity. So the East End brand went to private equity, and I then did a deal with private equity to buy back what was 3/4 of the turnover of that company. Wow. Under the Lioncroft brand. So that was my new brand that and predominantly now albeit we're not manufacturing, but we just wholesale to retail stores. Around about 7,000 retail stores in the Midlands and around the UK and Europe. Those 7,000 retail stores have 30,000 sites.
Wow.
So it's a pretty broad range of customers.
That's a fantastic journey, and I think what we sometimes forget is the power of family and the power of starting a business in that regard, but taking it to a whole new world and an evolution of business. So in terms of the size, 7,000 retailers, 30,000 sites, I'm okay to ask about revenue. How much is it?
Yeah, sure. I mean, when we sold East End Foods, it was 220 odd million turnover. The bit I took back was roughly just over 130 million pound turnover. And in the last 2 and a bit years, we've grown that to touching 200 million.
Fantastic. I think one thing that we often forget in business is that it's about making money and profit, but profit has many, many different meanings. And I know that you've been much a support and advocate of business across the world in many different initiatives. Yeah. So if you give an example of an initiative that you might have been invested in or you've worked with or you supported.
Well, I think in the East End days, the old company, we had a number of things to do with farming in India and sustainability. This was before the word had become fashionable to a degree as it is today. So we bought the old HP sauce factory. That's a site that I have run for 12 years since it opened. And we redeveloped that site. As you know, Heinz took it over and took production over to Belgium, I believe. We on that site, we had solar power, rainwater harvesting, 40% more natural light in the store, LED. This was 12, 13 years ago, right? Yeah. So today these things are normal, but in those days it was a conscious decision by the family that we would invest more money into the property to do the right thing.
And I think that's such a great point, Jason, because CSR, ESG, all these terms that we're so used to hearing these days are often seen as new things. But as you quite rightly said, when you do it as a natural part of your business, those things become a natural evolution of the success of the business. And indeed, without those things, one could argue that the business would be successful because the congregation, aggregation of social and commercial being a purpose-driven business really adds value. But as a purpose-driven business, how did you balance this kind of family, social, commercial aspect of growing the business? Was it difficult, really trying to get that balance all the time?
I think that what you have to realize is that you've got to go with your gut and doing the right thing. So profiteering in the short term will never get you growth or stability in the manner that when you take a long-term view, as a family business does. You know, we're looking at a horizon of 25 to 30 years, even with my new company, which is just 5 people in my immediate family now. So the cousins and all that have retired, but it's myself, my wife, mum and dad, and younger brother. And even now we have an horizon of 25 to 30 years. So that mindset changes your approach to business quite a lot. And doing the right thing does count well high, very high on the agenda.
I mean, just on that point, I mean, do you see a lot of businesses not thinking that far ahead? Or do you think they might feel it too challenging to do so?
No, I think they're driven by shareholder value creation. So, it's important for businesses with multiple shareholders to deliver value quickly. Whereas in a family business, you probably have a longer horizon.
So moving slightly away from family, but staying with the theme of people. People are very fundamental to growth in any organisation. Sure. And as an organisation that you've taken back, you're now growing. It's moving in a fantastic direction. What do you look for when recruiting people into the organisation?
I think it's very important for me as a CEO, as the leader of the business, to describe the dynamic of the business. Now, I have deliberately created this new Lioncroft company. We have a wholesaling facilities in Smethwick and Aston. We've created it deliberately with a very shallow hierarchy. So we can be very fluid, we can be fleet of foot, we can adapt to market changes really, really quickly. And as a result, what we've found is that, in the UK wholesale industry, we're considered to be number 3. Now, that's only with two depots. Our competitors have 8, 9 depots each, and our performance is certainly outweighing that. So, you've got to have a lot of respect for your competitors, but at the same time, you've got to work on your agenda and making sure that, the success is driven hard, and you can only do that with good people. So good people have to buy into the culture, and they have to be comfortable. So at interview time, I always personally interview, the final interview, and I kind of warts and all say, well, this is our company, this is what we're about. We're all quite chilled out. We tend to be very fluid, and the shallow hierarchy really, really helps us.
And I guess in recent times that we've all been through as a world and an economy, and certainly in the region, I think that ability to have a team that feel that they can move and blend with the times with you and feel supported by the executive and management to do so is really, really important.
We are all there to make the best living for our families. So as long as we can provide, as a business and as a family, we can provide opportunities for our colleagues, we tend to have, as we do, a very low labour turnover, really good loyalty, really good output in our team. And really, it's to a degree, it's about doing away with too much formality and really just getting to the crux of what we're all there to do.
I mean, as you're talking, what's really coming across is this sense of authenticity and a groundedness in terms of your approach to business, which I guess is something you want to see in the people that you recruit.
Business is fun.
Not all the time.
You've got to get everything in order. You've got to get things right, and you've got to do the best you can. But actually, my father always says to me that you just keep working hard, and the results are in the hands of the Almighty. So that's kind of what I live by, and it works for me. Yeah.
But how do you motivate your staff through uncertain times? Because yes, there's this kind of blend in the agility and a great environment, but sometimes your back's against the wall and you have to go shoulder to shoulder. How do you motivate your staff during those times?
Well, COVID was a prime example, and we were we were selling up East End Foods in November 19. There was a great deal of uncertainty because as leaders of the business, we couldn't inform our team of the full picture of what the agenda of the sale of the business was until the buyer was comfortable with that. So we had all of that kind of almost instability within the business, or under the skin type of instability, albeit financially it was very successful. But colleagues were feeling a little bit insecure about, are they going to have a job, or what's going to happen in the future? And so that was one challenge, and we navigated that successfully and reassured our colleagues that, look, your jobs are safe. You know, this company's just going through a change, and you know, things will be good. I couldn't tell them that I was actually planning to buy the business back, which is the second challenge. Now that challenge came about during COVID, so I had a double whammy where I had to deal with the COVID challenges and keeping my team safe, and we did all kinds of stuff like ozoning the buildings every night, so the air was clean and it was purified, and PPE for staff, and very, very regimented ways of trading. A certain number of people, we're all familiar with the drill. Now, I'm very proud to say that during that period of COVID, the height of COVID, I think we only had about 2 people that had actually got COVID.
Wow.
And that was, we put a lot of money behind keeping people safe.
Yeah.
And we're proud of that. So the challenge is, I think that you've got to build trust with people as a leader, and be very, you know, calm around them. You know, if I seem to be in a panic, then they'll be, oh my God, this guy's in a panic. We all need to, you know, we all need to worry. So there is a degree of having the trust of your team, and obviously keeping calm as a leader and guiding them through to the best of your ability. You know?
Yeah, and I mean, you know, I was going to ask, you know, as a leader, how do you manage that personal responsibility of leading others? But as you quite rightly said there, you've got to keep calm, you've got to display trust, and that trust is earned by keeping
over
calm
time.
and over time. So I really respect you for that, and particularly with that uncertain time, which was challenging for so many. For them to stick with you in the organisation, to see that through, that's a testament to seeing that manifest in its
And I suppose then, following that particular time, as we got into the family, my family and me taking over the wholesale business again, it was a new era.
Yeah.
So we had to convince colleagues that this is, you know, we're going to grow, and we're going to grow fast, and we have done. But giving them your vision in a manner that's succinct and understandable, and how it relates to them, is very, very important. So for the first time in 50 years of the Wouhra family in business, I made a mission statement and a vision statement and a set of values for the business. Now, in all the time we had East End, we didn't actually have a codified. You know, we just got on with it.
Yeah.
So our vision is to be the best and most respected operator in our industry, and our values are honesty, you know, being honest in all we do, opportunity, taking advantage of all the opportunities that come our way, purpose, you know, having a purpose, having a collective, unified purpose, and energy, creating the energy within the organisation to it.
I see the acronym.
and that spells hope. Now that resonates with a lot of people.
100%.
Right?
100%.
So that's worked really well.
Fantastic. No, I enjoy that. That's really, really cool. I like the cleverness of that acronym. It's so that people can grasp and
it's got to be simple and something you remember.
100%.
Yeah.
So as we move forward in terms of growth and moving ahead, you know, one of the challenges that we see in the regional economy is access to finance.
Yeah.
We know that capital is always a challenge, but it's a key component of business growth. But I guess as a wider question, what do you think financial providers need to do in order to support businesses more in the region when it comes to capital?
They need to understand and respect entrepreneurialism. We're very lucky that we haven't got much leverage in our company, so we don't rely on the banks too much, albeit we have a 50-year relationship with our bankers, who do an excellent job.
Which is unusual, 50 years in this day and age.
At HSBC, you know, I remember going to Midland Bank on New Street when I was
Wow.
about 7 or 8 years old with my uncle. But you know, that relationship's great, but we don't actually lean on the bank too much. But there are certain businesses and startups that need that support. And really it's about that the bank being understanding and really grasping that entrepreneurial spirit. There's always a degree of risk, of course, by definition. But it's important that, you know, that risk is weighed against what the opportunity is. And banks don't always realize that.
Why do you think that is?
They're probably tied up in bureaucracy and their own back office systems and you know, that kind of mentality. But and there's not a lot you can, you know, they're global, mostly in most cases global businesses, so naturally they would have that.
It's funny because even in my own kind of day-to-day world outside this, you know, I'm involved in this kind of inclusive capital world of trying to help providers make capital much more accessible to all.
Yeah.
And one of the things that we've seen happening, particularly in this world of digital disruption, is that there's almost a fear of taking too much risk, even though they know that they can't do what they always used to do. You know, times have changed and the world has changed.
Yeah.
And so how do we get entrepreneurialism into the heart of these organizations so they have a real life understanding of the journey of startups? And I think that's an ongoing question, I guess, that we all probably need to answer.
To be honest, the British psyche needs to take a step change.
Okay.
And evaluate the importance of entrepreneurialism in the UK. Encourage it, cherish it, celebrate it. That's really what we need to do, because there's a lot of talent in this country that we're not really maximising.
It's true. And even in our region, you know, we're one of the most diverse regions in the country, yet there's a lot of pockets of our communities who don't get access to the finance that they need to grow. So I think there's an opportunity for us all to leverage that in the most effective way. I guess as we talk more about growth as well, there's also got to be times where we fail, or indeed, arguably, lessons that we have to learn rather than failing. But have you got an example of when you might have gone through that experience yourself, and how did you overcome that?
I suppose day to day, there's lots of small examples. But the important thing for me is really how you get up after you've failed, how quickly you amend the issue. In day-to-day business, you know, there's lots of mistakes that you will make. You might believe something to be the right decision, but it's not. So, but I think the only bit of advice I can say for that point is be quick, be fleet of foot, fix the problem, and get on. You know, people always, you know, but certain people would dwell on it too much. But you've got to just accept failure as part of business life.
But what if you make the same mistake time and time again?
Well, then you're silly.
I guess on the opposite side, can you give an example of when you might have achieved success more than you even thought was possible, and what did it feel like achieving that?
I think that there's been quite a few occasions that I hadn't expected the results. That, in particular, the establishment of the Lioncroft business and trading or dealing with private equity who are professionals at buying and selling businesses. Yeah. And I'm the new kid in town, right? So I know how to sell a tin of beans, but I don't know how to buy and sell a company. And thankfully, you know, with the right advisors, the deal was done and we got on our way. And then on day one, I had no management team. Okay. So it was literally just me and my wife, my brother, mum and dad. Wow. In the office. And albeit the business is trading, but we can't let our customers know that there's no management team on the top floor, and we have to hire them, and we get them in, and we bring them into our psyche, and we bring them into our way of working very, very, very quickly. Yeah. And grown this company, you know, from that 130 million to touching 200 million turnover. And it's not just the turnover; it's my game is high turnover and low margin. Yeah. But our aim is to grow this to $500 million and beyond, and we're dealing with a lot of new categories of customer. So we're dealing with stadiums, we're dealing with restaurants, bars, clubs, because traditionally we've been retail people, independent retail. We support the small independent retail, small business people who are, you know, the corner shops, convenience stores around us in our communities. So I suppose that growth and that journey in the last 2.5 years from East End to Lioncroft has been really, really interesting. And I suppose we've surprised ourselves with how quickly it's come good.
I think, you know, as you scale your business, you have to scale yourself.
Yeah.
In terms of your understanding, your learning, you know, practically systems and processes and things like that. But your own growth mindset is really important.
Yeah.
You know, what is your views on mindset, and how have you been able to develop that as a leader?
Mindset, I think as a business person, you always need to be very positive. When we sold East End Foods, I wasn't ready to retire. Many people in the family were, for obvious reasons, but I was quite distraught about selling the company, because I could see that there was such a huge potential to the East End business. Now, translating that into this new journey, I suppose the mindset has to be very determined, single-minded, humble. You know, keep close to the ground, because if you're not close to the ground, you'll start making mistakes very, very quickly. And by doing that, you know, you're able to kind of work your way through your business life, and bringing those ideas that you have, you know, at 2 o'clock in the morning, you're lying in bed and you get some cool idea, and then you think, right, how am I going to bring that to life? And starting to work through that process. Very enjoyable process. It's risky, but it's very enjoyable.
It strikes me that despite the journey and you know, fantastic position that you're in now and where you're going to take the organisation as a team, you still have that entrepreneurialism, you still have that kind of seed and that spark within you, which is great to see.
I think when we come back to our vision of hope, any immigrant community that come to this country or any other country away from their homeland have hope. And I think for me, it's about that legacy of, you know, my family came here with nothing. In some way, I'm continuing that business journey, and many of the family aren't. I enjoy it. I personally feel that's my way forward. And it's about building the legacy to say, well, you know, what at least one of the Wouhras did carried on.
Yeah, and it's so reminiscent of obviously my own culture and community, and you know, entrepreneurism is a state of life.
Yes.
You know, for many communities, because you've got nothing but whatever you have, and you have to turn that into something.
Yeah.
But I think in business, and in particular in our region, when we look at the whole business landscape, I do think we celebrate entrepreneurship a lot, but when it comes to scaling to that next level, you know, we're great at starting businesses, we're not so great at scaling them.
That is actually a very good point you make, because if you look at family businesses, and a lot of entrepreneurial businesses are family businesses, they get to a certain level, and the point at which they need to change from an entrepreneurial family business to a corporate is a very difficult transition.
Yeah, huge.
And that's why a lot of them sell up. A lot of our compatriots and colleagues in the industry who have a similar background to us, they have equally, they've sold up in recent years, because I think they've got to that point where, you know, that move to the corporate world is a bit difficult.
Do you think it's scary for many as well? I don't know, there's a conditioning, particularly in communities like ours, where they feel, not imposter syndrome, but almost like, yeah, we've done our lot now, that's enough.
Well, I suppose you get to a point in life that you want to rest.
Yeah.
Because the other thing, as an entrepreneur, you never stop. So you're always on the move. You're always on the move. So at some point, you kind of got to go, yeah, I need a rest now. But I certainly wasn't at that point when we sold up. So hence carrying on.
The journey continues.
But I suppose at some point in time, I'll be the same. So I suppose it's how, you know, the next generation take on those businesses, if it's a family business, what talent they've got, what ambition and fire they've got to develop their businesses. That's the key, I think.
Absolutely. And so as we just kind of beginning to come to the end, I guess, if we're thinking about that kind of next generation of leader, whether it's in the family business or not, what tips would you give back to your younger self if you could? You know, if you could transport yourself back to when you started on this journey to where you are, what kind of maybe top 3 tips would you share with your younger self?
Well, the first thing I'd say to myself, buckle up, you're in for a ride. I think that the important thing is being single-minded, determined, honest. Always be honest, and, you know, don't give up. Keep going, because it will come good in the end. And that's really, you know, confidence without being overconfident, obviously. But actually that single-mindedness and determination is what drives you and what gets you up in the morning.
No, I appreciate that. And I hope our viewers do too. Well, Jason, just in our conversation today, you know, your humility, your drive, your passion, your purpose really comes through.
Thank you.
And I just want to thank you for the contribution that you've made to the business community here and contributions that you will make in the future. And it's been a pleasure having you on the show today.
Thank you so much. Likewise.
Thank you for your time. Thank you. So thank you very much for watching in, and we look forward to seeing you on the next edition of the Joe Black Business Show. Thank you.